Welcome to the SVG-TV News for Tuesday, February 9th. I'm Khalil Cato with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves and his wife Eloise Gonsalves were among 10 persons who today took the first dose of the Russian Sputnik 5 vaccine at the Levi Latham Medical Complex in Mesopotamia. Mrs. Gonsalves was first to receive her dose of the vaccine with her husband, Prime Minister Gonsalves, by her side. Speaking to the media after he received his shot, PM Gonsalves noted the simple process in getting vaccinated, which included checking of vitals in a separate room before proceeding to the vaccination room. The vaccine was administered by nurse Arlene James.
No, people must feel relaxed about taking the vaccine. It's science thus far in the fight against COVID has been good. The time when we have gotten the vaccine was a short period of time. So human ingenuity has been very good and science has been very helpful. Human solidarity not so good. The science has been good. We need to look out for one another.
The Prime Minister said it is his hope that persons will use him and his wife as examples and come forward to take the vaccine when the first batch arrives in the state.
Vaccine becomes more widely available, that everybody would want to take the vaccine. And I'm urging those who are put in the category of quote-unquote anti-vaxxers. They have made their point. I happen not to agree with that. I agree with the science. We have had a good program of vaccine, and I have to be guided by the science. You hear the things that if you take the Russian vaccine, you'll grow horns, you'll grow tail. Well, you'll see in a short while whether I grow horns or tail. Okay,
it's been a few minutes now. How are you feeling? Are you still feeling any pain? Or?
No, I'm all right. It's just a simple vaccine. Just a little over my life so far. I get plenty on my shoulder. I get plenty on my butt.
Mrs. Gonsalves shared her vaccination experience with us and encouraged people to take the vaccine, especially women.
I would say that based on the science, that it is a good thing to do, and that, I encourage all the women of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the region to go ahead and have the vaccination. It's the right thing to do. We always have to think of the community as a whole. It might hurt a little bit. It's a tiny jab, and I'm not someone who loves injections, but it is definitely worth it in the circumstances.
The Prime Minister, along with Mrs. Gonsalves and the 8 other persons who received their first dose of the vaccine today, are expected to get their second dose on March 2nd. Registrar in Community Medicine, Dr. Franklin James, said to date, 15 out of 20 volunteers have taken the Sputnik vaccine.
Yes, along with the Prime Minister and his wife, 8 other persons have taken the Sputnik 5 vaccine today, the first dose of the Sputnik 5. The booster normally is 21 days after the first dose. So for those who took it last week, the 22nd of February would be their booster. They have not had any untoward effects, no side effects, basically.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Kieser-Beach, who was on hand today to witness the vaccination of the Prime Minister and his wife, said members of the public should prepare themselves for the COVID-19 vaccine as they are making preparations for the rollout, with the first batch of the AstraZeneca vaccine through the COVAX facility expected in the state next week.
Encourage everyone else to be prepared to have a vaccination, whether it is with the Sputnik or the AstraZeneca, which we expect to get within the next 2 weeks. So we should have sufficient, around 16,000 doses, and each vaccine requires 2 doses, so we should be able to roll out our full program starting next week. In our journey to get this coronavirus, COVID-19 under control, a key part is the immunization of the Vincentian public. And this is extremely important. We are confident in this vaccine. We know that it will do what it's supposed to do, which is to protect us so that we could continue to do our work. And we encourage everyone else to do the same.
Infectious disease specialist Dr. Gerald Thompson was among the first batch of volunteers to take the Sputnik vaccine on February 1st as part of the local trial in which 20 samples will be administered. In a telephone interview with SVG-TV News today, Dr. Thompson said since taking the vaccine, many persons have reached out to him expressing their willingness to be vaccinated.
A lot of people being called, a lot of people from all corners of the society, especially some persons who are elderly. They want the vaccine now. And whether it is one type of vaccine or the other, I think that there's growing interest. Clearly, there's still a lot of skepticism and hesitancy, but I see that actually reducing as we are getting closer to bringing in a fairly sizable supply of vaccine and actually administering to the various groups who are going to receive it first and second and third and so forth.
Dr. Thompson also provided an update on his health 1 week after taking the first dose of the Sputnik vaccine. He said his experience has been great thus far.
I'm absolutely great. I feel great. About a day and a half after I received the vaccine, I did have a slight bit of stiffness in my left wrist. And that was it. I had no fever, I had no other symptoms, and I've been watching and monitoring everything very, very carefully, and I've been finding none of the other persons who received the vaccine has had any problem.
Dr. Thompson said persons skeptical of taking the vaccine should follow the example set by himself, the Prime Minister, and other volunteers who have come forward to be vaccinated.
An important message to St. Vincent and the Grenadines is that the Prime Minister could take it, if Dr. Roger Duncan could take it, if other persons could take it, and feel comfortable about that, then they should consider it too. We want them to be educated on these things, on all the matters, all the issues, and make an informed choice. And we're hoping that they will go forward. And when we're ready to give the vaccine to them or their group, that they would actually willingly accept the vaccine.
The Russian Sputnik COVID-19 vaccine has been found to have a 91.6% efficacy in final stage clinical trials against symptomatic COVID-19. The first batch of the vaccine volunteers, that is, are set to receive their second shot on February 21st. While St. Vincent and the Grenadines may not use the Sputnik vaccine for mass vaccination of the public, the production of the vaccine used similar methods as the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. SVG is expected to receive 45,600 of the AstraZeneca vaccine by mid-month through the COVAX initiative. Meanwhile, many traditional methods have been discussed to prevent and treat COVID-19. A new Old Wives' Tale suggesting that consuming alcohol can protect an individual as the virus is speculated to dislike heat was debunked today by Dr. Thompson. The infectious disease specialist said while there has been some science on the gargling of products like mouthwash to kill the virus if it is in the throat, nothing conclusive has been determined. He, however, made it clear that the consumption of alcohol does not offer any protection against the virus.
There has been some recent work that suggests that gargling with mouthwash and those sort of things may have some benefit to help reduce if there's a current infection with COVID in the back of the throat. But alcoholics tend to say that the heat from strong rum is going to get rid of the vaccine, of the virus, because the virus likes the cold. But they're actually drinking the alcohol, and we are worried about whether they are eating the right things, whether they're getting enough nutrition, because it is boosting your immune system and eating right that is going to have a much greater benefit on more or less combating the virus if it attacks you.
In order to prevent the spread of COVID-19, persons are reminded to continue to practice social distancing, wear their masks correctly, covering their mouth and nose, wash their hands, and frequently sanitize when running water is not available. Today, St. Vincent and the Grenadines confirmed 41 new COVID-19 cases. 2 positive cases were from samples collected on January 27th, 18 from February 1st, 2 from February 3rd, 5 from February 5th, 7 from February 6th, and 7 from February 8th. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said these cases were detected during exit screening, contact tracing, and testing of persons with flu symptoms. There are now 1,174 local cases of COVID-19. 3 persons have been cleared, bringing the total number of recoveries to 418. 902 cases remain active, and 4 persons with COVID-19 have died. 1,324 cases of COVID-19 have been reported in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. NEMO said all positive cases will remain isolated until cleared. All those contacts of positive cases currently in quarantine should contact the flu clinic in their district to arrange for testing. The public is advised that the use of masks in public spaces or private spaces to which the public has access is now mandatory under the Public Health Act 2020. Public transportation vehicles may only transport 1/2 of the persons they are licensed to carry. These measures, NEMO said, are aimed at reducing the potential for any increase in the incidence of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As the number of local COVID-19 cases increase, with the latest figure at 1,174, one radio station has been forced to put their programs on automation after 2 staff members tested positive for the virus. In a notice issued today, the management of the station said out of an abundance of caution for the health and well-being of staff and their families, they have embarked on company-wide testing. The notice said while quick testing has proved negative, members of staff have also taken the PCR test and are awaiting those results. Station management said while they await the PCR test results, their frequencies will be automated and regret any inconvenience, noting that they must put the health and safety of their staff first. COVID-19 has affected the world in unprecedented ways and has destabilized the lives of many individuals, causing levels of stress beyond what a person may normally be able to manage. Local and other psychologists around the world have encouraged persons to monitor their mental health and that of other family members, looking for signs of distress, utilizing strong coping mechanisms to navigate these uncharted waters that have brought feelings of isolation as a result of social distance from family and friends, worry over income and health, and pressure from homeschooling and being homeschooled. Speaking on NBC Radio's face-to-face program today, Ophelia Lewis, who is a member of the psycho support team of the COVID-19 task force and a counselor attached to the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center, shared ways that persons can effectively manage their mental health during the current COVID-19 pandemic.
We are always worried about our physical health. So first thing, know what to do if you are sick. If you have symptoms such as a cough, a fever, loss of taste, loss of smell, contact your nearest flu clinic. So first thing, deal with your physical health. If you have underlying health conditions, make sure that you are staying on top of that, taking your medication as prescribed, and reaching out to your clinic if you're having any problems. For some of us, we might need to take breaks from watching the news, reading the news, listening to the news. And to constantly take in all of that sort of information can really affect your mental health. To be constantly watching it every hour on the hour, it's not good for our mental health. Take care of your body. We can stretch, we can meditate, we can still try to eat healthy. We can still take walks around our neighborhoods, safely of course, and get plenty of sleep. And avoid increasing your alcohol and drug use. Make time to unwind, and you can still connect with others. You may not be able to meet them in person, but you can use online platforms like Zoom. So for example, my friends and I had a girls' night using Zoom.
Mental health deterioration can be gradual. As such, Lewis shared signs to look for within ourselves or family members in order to determine our mental health status and whether intervention may be needed.
Some signs to look out for that your mental health may be affected. Changes in sleep or eating pattern. They're sleeping in the night, they're sleeping in the day, eating less than usual or more than usual. They're unable to concentrate on what is happening. That's another sign. A drop in functioning. So everybody has a baseline function. So I know for me, I wake up in the morning, I have my devotions, I get ready for work, I go to work. That's my usual functioning. So if I realize that I'm not able to do these things, it's hard for me to get out of bed, it's hard for me to even want to bathe my skin or brush my teeth. That's a drop in functioning that I will be aware of, or even if I'm not, that my family will be aware of. Okay, so look out for those things. You know your family members, you know yourself. If you realize things are not what they used to be with you, you need to pay attention to that. If you're having thoughts of death, dying, suicide, and thoughts to harm others, you need to get to a clinic or the emergency room as soon as possible. We don't wait and see if it goes away, but we get them some help as soon as possible.
Parents are also encouraged to try to maintain a routine for their children who, according to Lewis, are under stress of their own, with socialization and play heavily reduced due to the closure of schools. Lewis also encouraged persons reaching out for help to never feel ashamed, as sometimes persons are in need of support that just cannot be provided by those around them. For anyone requiring mental health assistance surrounding COVID-19, the COVID-19 hotline can be contacted at 534-4325, and persons will be directed to the psycho support team. Alternatively, for general mental health issues, the Mental Rehabilitation Center can be contacted at 458-4240 or 458-6185, and a counselor can be requested. Inspector Parnell Brown of the Traffic Branch of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force is urging members of the public, particularly omnibus drivers and conductors, passengers, and restaurant and bar owners, to comply with the new public health rules and regulations, which are guided by Statutory Rule and Order Number 4 of 2020, which came into effect last Saturday. The new legislation makes it mandatory for the wearing of masks in certain places, reduce the reduction of passengers in public transportation, and limitations on mass gatherings. Failure to comply could result in a fine of up to 1,000 EC dollars. That should be the rules and regulations will be enforced by the RSVG Police Force. In an interview today with SVG-TV News, Inspector Brown explained exactly how persons can be charged, noting that violators of the rules and regulations will be given 28 days in order to pay their fines, and failure to do so can see them being taken to court, which could result in a conviction.
The police happen to stop the vehicle that you're traveling in, and you're not wearing your mask. There's an option. The police can warn you, ask you if you have a mask, and ask you to put it on. In the case of the driver and the conductor, they can do likewise. But if the driver or the conductor does not have a mask with them, simply the bus cannot travel, 1, without the licensed driver. 2, even though the driver have a mask and the conductor doesn't have a mask, the bus would not be able to proceed because the bus have to operate with a licensed conductor. The driver or the conductor can be ticketed for not complying with the protocol set out by the Ministry of Health. They can be ticketed for a fine $100.
Inspector Brown said the fines could be paid at the magistrate's court or a revenue office. He said the tickets for the offences are being printed, hence persons are not yet being charged. He said police are using this time to sensitize the public on the rules and regulations.
Within 28 days, when the ticket has been issued and they haven't paid the fine, they will be taken to court, where the fine can increase up to $500. So there's a system, there's a way in which you can you can go and pay your money before the 28 days. And if the 28 days pass and you have to go to court, where there will be a trial, and you're found guilty, you can be fined up to $500. If the ticket is paid before and you ain't go to court, it will not be a conviction to your name. So it is very clear. And as we speak, the books have been printed at the government printery, but in the meantime, the police is sensitizing the public as to what they're supposed to be doing to avoid being charged under the regulation.
Inspector Brown used the opportunity to urge omnibus operators to comply with the 50% reduction of their passenger load, noting that the safety of every Vincentian must be a priority.
Who might not be in compliance with the COVID-19 regulation, if you are approached or when you are approached by the police, I am advising you please to cooperate with the police, because the police have your interests at heart. I would not like anyone to politicalize anything concerning this and cast light on the police. I'm asking you, please, to cooperate with the police in complying with whatever the Ministry of Health protocol is.
Lead scientist monitoring the La Soufrière volcano, Dr. Thomas Christopher, said investigations into changes at the Walibu hot springs were carried out, and it was found that there is an increase in temperature and stronger sulfur smell. Dr. Christopher told SVG-TV News that last week, an unusual activity at the Walibu hot spring was reported, and on Sunday, samples were collected, which resulted in their preliminary findings.
We got temperatures around 44 degrees Celsius, which is probably about 7 or 8 degrees higher than what it was when the last temperatures were taken a few years ago. We took some gas measurements, and I found the presence of H2S, CO2, and water, all of which are consistent with the hydrothermal system. So basically what we think is happening is we're seeing evidence of the hydrothermal system being heated up, which supports the occurrence of sulfur in the emissions. We're seeing two lines of evidence that the hydrothermal system is being heated. What we don't know if it's just a pure heat transfer or if it's actually a chemical transfer also, and the water samples that we collect.
Dr. Christopher said the samples will be sent to the U.S. for further tests to be carried out. He said the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, will be the authority to stop persons from going to the springs, but that would be his recommendation.
They basically said that they were having headaches and stuff, and even when we went there, there was like some complaints of the gases being a bit strong. So I'm guessing if you have like breathing issues, you might be uncomfortable there because of the increased smell of sulfur, or the stronger smell of sulfur.
Dr. Christopher said that there is a long stretch of the hot springs, and it is likely that there are increased temperatures.
I wasn't even aware that there were hot springs here, but the hot area, it extends over an extended distance along the riverbed. So I'm guessing we would have hot spots for at least 2 kilometers along the riverbed, because we were finding hot areas as we went upstream.
Political activist Luzette King has been charged for breaching the country's immigration and customs regulations and protocols. According to a police report, the 57-year-old retired nurse of Mesopotamia and the United States of America was charged with entering the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines by air on January 30th and not presenting herself in person to the nearest immigration officer at the Argyle International Airport, contrary to Section 27D of Chapter 114 of the Immigration Restriction Act. King, who was being represented by lawyer K. Bacchus Batiste, appeared before the Chief Magistrate Rayshan Brown at a virtual court hearing and was granted bail in the sum of 2,000 EC dollars with one surety. She schedules to return to court on March 11th. King is said to be in quarantine at a local hotel. Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, National Security, Legal Affairs and Information, Kiesel Peters, said the 2021 budget is positioning St. Vincent and the Grenadines for an economic comeback. During her contribution to the budget debate last week, Peters noted that the 2021 budget allocates to her ministry $20.9 million in recurrent expenditure and $334,000 in capital expenditure. The government senator said she is happy that there is also an increase in the budget for the training of staff in the ministry.
The budget has made provisions for increased funds as it relates to staff training. And this will assist us in our key strategic priority. Well, we have a number of them, but some of the main ones include institutional strengthening of the ministry. It includes increasing employee competency and productivity. And I am a firm believer in continued professional development, Madam Speaker, and I encourage all civil servants to whom training is extended to accept it, embrace it, and take part, because it will serve you better as an individual, and it will serve the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines much better. So I'm happy to see that our training programs have increased from 77 to 87.
Senator Peters said that $84,000 has been allocated to the Overseas Mission Enhancement Project, which will further help to position SVG on the international stage.
Relates to our Overseas Mission Enhancement Project. Now, Madam Speaker, our diplomats are living in another man's land. Never mind their diplomatic relations between the countries in which our missions are situated, but we have to make them comfortable. And in this project, we will allocate some funds to the refurbishment of the residence in Washington, the purchase of office equipment for the London High Commission, and we will purchase fixtures such as furniture for our embassy in Cuba.
The government senator said other capital expenditure allocations to her ministry will affect trade, particularly as it relates to the standardization and certification of exportable service providers and a food safety certification system.
The first allocation I'll mention is the standardization and certification of exportable service providers. Now, Madam Speaker, we have always spoken about the free movement of our people, our skilled workers being able to go from country to country. This allocation will enable our skilled workers to receive the certification that they so require to go out there and to execute their trade. The second allocation that will affect the trade industry is the food safety certification system. And that will be executed by the Ministry of Agriculture, but it affects trade because in this instance, our livestock farmers will be able to certify their produce so that it can enter the international market, specifically the European Union market.